Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the comment video. And it is the 8th of May, 2025. And you might notice all I had was a positive news video yesterday because I did film a long form video and it was horrible. I tried editing and I just like, this is just terrible. So I trashed the whole thing. So I didn't do it. I'll try to make up for it. I don't know what I'm going to do today for a video. I do know I have to go into town to they have these sort of private motor vehicle department companies, I guess contract with the state, and they're going to come out. I've already registered my truck and everything, got my driver's license, but I haven't done my trailer because I just didn't want to break camp and bring it in. So they're sending someone out to read the VIN, and then we can complete the registration on that. All right. Let's see. The first one today is on the truth about crime in Quartzsite. That's from last year, and Matt's Pimp says, I always assumed if you owned a camper, you probably have a CCW. Maybe. I don't know. A lot of people have guns in this country. That's for certain. Borderland 9915. It was a great video about bad news insights, good stuff. And just a review, if you didn't see that video, I did quite a bit in that video about this, what a friend of mine referred to as bad news insights. And that was simply when you discover something about yourself that is not pleasant. It's bad news about yourself. And he used to love it because he's like, hey, that's a great opportunity. It's always, when you have a bad news insight, it's an opportunity for you to do something different. RV Life says, love seeing George and Dottie on the couch together. I'm looking at Dottie now. In the house here, I've been working out the kinks, working out the details, and I made the mistake of not elevating George's food. So Dottie's been stealing George's food. So now I have it elevated so Dottie can't get at it. George hasn't figured out where it is yet, even though I picked him up and put him on the elevated thing, and he just freaked out and jumped. And Dottie's over there searching for where it used to be. And now George is looking for where it used to be, and it's right above him. You'll figure it out, George. You'll smell that food and hop up there. I know you will. Okay. Haas. 1003. Rob, you passed right by a sporting goods store while looking for shoe polish for leather loafers. Most carry leather supplies. I've always used mink oil for my leather shoes and boots. Mink oil and saddle soap is used for baseball gloves and horse saddles and bridles and has many other uses. Glad you found what you needed. That was a great suggestion. I had no idea where to go in town to get shoe polish other than Walmart. I didn't want to go to Walmart. Ken Gray says he had commented, I have to explain this because he's really responding to something that I said. He made a comment on my Amazon purchases video, and he said, overall good purchases. So I wrote back to him and I said, Ken, that implies there was at least one that you didn't think was a good purchase. Then he points out here very rightly, he goes, overall good purchases means that there was one that you said you were going to return or pay forward. He's absolutely right. I bought two of something and by mistake. And by the time I realized it, it was too late to stop it from shipping. And so the second one I gave to a friend. I paid it forward. So it was a mistake, but I was glad to be able to help a friend out. And Ken says, suspenders, generally the thin ones are for dressing up and the thicker ones are for casual dress. Got it. Let's see. Judy Harris says, we live between Artesia and Carlsbad and are constantly doing errands in both towns. Nice to go to the other if one doesn't have what you're looking for. In Artesia, there's a Family Dollar on Quay, about 4 blocks from First Street. We find a lot of things we like there if you don't want to make a trip to Walmart. I bet they even have shoe polish. Bet she's right. Jackson says, I was thinking about your bad news insights and risky business videos. You share so much about yourself, which is one of the things that make your videos really cool. But if you run into a viewer, if they see you in the store or around town somewhere, for them, they would feel like they know you really well. But for you, that person would be a complete stranger. That must be awkward and weird. I'm thinking that it must be similar to when people see a movie star out in public. But the difference is that a movie star is playing a character. You're documenting yourself. Just thinking about how awkward that must be. Those are really good, insightful thoughts. I will tell you, the reality for me is this. In Quartzsite, because it's such a small area packed with RVers and YouTube people, and that's where I get the most views, is when I'm in Quartzsite doing videos. And so it's rare for me to not get recognized and approached at least once every time I go into town. And to me, that's not awkward at all. It's very flattering, and it's like it puts a big smile on my face. Here's the awkward part. It's when people figure out where I'm camping and they come to my camp. Yeah, they think they know me. They're really comfortable approaching me. They know there's no danger involved. I'm generally a pretty nice guy. They know that all about me. But when somebody approaches my camp and I see somebody pull up in a big truck and come out and start marching towards my front door, I have to consider that I get nasty comments and sometimes even threats. And I don't know whether you're friend or foe when you're coming. So that's very awkward and tense. The moments I open the door and I go, can I help you? I'm holding my breath as to whether it's going to be a friendly response or they're going to start yelling at me. So that's the part and I think most YouTubers will tell you the same thing, is that it's a lot more comfortable to be approached in public, and most welcome that. And it's very uncomfortable to be approached at your home. But good insights. Susan B. Love the red suspenders and agree about 2 inches for suspenders. And yeah, I've wasted money on a couple that like blue ones that are too thin, so I won't be wearing those. You're right. Those are for formal, and I got nothing formal in my life. So these are my fat blue ones. I like these. Nancy Medeiros says, I would really like shopping in that market. Looks so clean and inviting. Susan says, I'd love seeing Dottie and George taking over the couch. George may be stretching out on the back of the couch. Cats usually like the vantage point and gives them. And George hasn't gotten up on the back of the couch yet. Maybe he will. I love accompanying you on your drives around town, running errands, commenting on local stores and landmarks. I've never been there, but I always like New Mexico from glimpses I've had in movies, TV, Georgia O'Keeffe. A series that I really liked that was shot largely in New Mexico, and there's a town called Las Vegas, New Mexico, as opposed to Las Vegas, Nevada. It was, believe it or not, the series Longmire was shot in Las Vegas. And if you've seen that series, I have a video on this I did the last time I was there. There are lots of scenes in the town square where they walk up to the door to the sheriff's office. Well, of course, the town square is still there where they shot, but also they kept the door, and they kept the Absaroka County Sheriff logo and everything on the door. It's neat. Dame First, happy 10th birthday to Dottie. Looking good from one senior lady to another. That's so nice. Let's see. Stephen Gushie. Hey, Rob, any luck with having your slide repaired? No. And here's the deal. He came out and he showed me what the problem was. There's gears on both sides, and the gears are attached to like with a couple rivets, and in both of them, rivets have sheared off, so those gears have shifted a little bit, and that's what's causing the problem. He said, this is not a field repair, because in order to fix this and to replace those gears, you have to completely remove the slide, and that's a big job. It has to be done in a shop. So that is actually, for me, was the worst case, because I was willing to spend good money to have someone repair it here, but in a shop, that's going to be tough for me to do. So for the time being, he said you can stick like a heavy duty screwdriver in there and try to pry it back into place, and that may work. It may also ruin it, which is the reason I won't do that, because there's too much liability involved. So after he left, I did try that. And by the way, this guy, mobile mechanic from Roswell, let me give him a shout out here, because he was very knowledgeable and he didn't charge me a dime. Roswell Mobile RV. It's Outer Limits RV Repair Service. That's in Roswell. And very nice people. And they did right by me. But sadly, that's the deal on the slide. So I'm going to deal with it. Fortunately, and here's the really fortunate thing, I'll pull it in to go up to Eagle Nest. I'll go to Eagle Nest. I'll pull it out. I'll stay there for 3 months. I'll pull it in. I'll come back here, pull it out, pull it in, go to quartzite. You know where I'm going here, that over the next year, I probably will pull it in and out about 6 times. So it'll probably, the way it is, last a while. But if it's, he said the next stage will be, it'll get cockeyed coming in, and you'll have to stop it, and you'll have to get someone to help you manually pull it in and out. And that's the sort of the death throes of it. So we'll see. We'll see. Topaz Farmer Travel says, I really like learning about neuroscience. It's very fascinating, especially when I learn why I am the way I am and do the things that I do. There was a positive news story on your brain and new research on your brain and habits. Naj says, hey, Rob, great video on fire safety. I learned a lot. Thanks. I did that video. I've done a couple of videos on fire prevention and fire safety, and there are a couple reasons for that. That is, I had two separate stints as a volunteer firefighter in my life, and I really enjoyed it. The other is, when you're in quartzite, if you're there for the season, chances are you will be witness to more than one RV fire. They're pretty obvious. You look up and there's a thick column of black smoke nearby, and that means somebody's RV is going up. And every year I see several, maybe 2 or 3. There are probably more, but I've seen, I think this past year I only saw 1, but the previous year I saw 3. Judy says, great info, thank you. And I didn't know about the tires other than causing an accident. Didn't know they could cause a fire. I cracked up at George in the background. Yeah, if you have a tire blowout, especially if you have a tire blowout where you have a propane line coming through and the blowout ruptures the propane line, there's a lot of heat and associated with the tire blowout, and you could easily get a spark and boom, you're going up in flames. And one of the mitigations for that was the gas stop devices that I talked about in that video, where you put these valves on the propane tank valves that sense a big release of pressure and it'll shut it off automatically. So Jack Brown has some general advice for people that it's a little bit more specific than me. I think it's good advice. Get a fire extinguisher that handles Class A, which is trash, wood, and paper, Class B, liquids and gases, and Class C, fires. I find it's pretty rare when you go like shopping at Walmart for a fire extinguisher to find one that isn't all three, A, B, and C. But make sure. Get a fire extinguisher that is larger than the small one that comes with the new RV. Have a fire extinguisher in your car if you have one, which is not exactly. I have one inside the RV and I have one in my car, and the one inside the RV is the little tiny cheap one. And in the video, I apologized for that and promised I'd get a new one. I'm going to do that today. He goes on to say, I was told by a retired firefighter that if you got everyone and your pets out of the RV, do not fight the fire yourself, even if you have more fire extinguishers or water. It's too dangerous for untrained people to fight a fire that could explode. He also said from experience that almost any fire damage to an RV means the insurance company will write off the RV, so why endanger yourself for no reason? I think I don't know that to be true about the insurance company, but it makes sense. If you've got charring somewhere, your RV's done. I think it's done. Haas, hey Rob, it looks like George was planting his own bomb behind you in the litter box where you're on camera. Oh, last but not least, great video of the worst things RV or dread happening in the most, fire. Ken Gray says that explains on the positive news video on the brain and habits. This explains why I start to feel bad when I have not walked as much as I normally do. It was a good video. Mike Benson says, very informative video. Did not know about the little automatic fire extinguisher. Yeah, I have 3 of them where they're little devices you stick on the wall in places in your RV that are high risk for fire, and they'll detect a fire and release extinguishing material automatically. I've looked on Amazon. There are a few different kinds. I would do some research on what would be best, but like you, my batteries and controllers are hidden away and surely could be fully engulfed by the time it's noticed. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. Yeah, I have them. I have 2 of them in my under compartment where I have my solar controller and one of my batteries and my inverter. And those are all potential sources of fire, especially if you're not vigilant and you end up with loose connections. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Stacy Jones thanks me for that video. Quartzsite Post Office long line. I think that was 2 years ago, and it was a short. And Minnie Cooper says, Minnie Cooper McQueen, is this year round or just during the height of the season? It's just the height of the season. There are no lines like that this time of year. Susan B. Well, I only live in a house, but you pushed me into finally replacing my carbon monoxide detector, which I've been meaning to do. The one I have, like your old detector, goes off every time I cook in my oven, so of course I took the battery out. I ordered the same one you have, so I hope it's fixed. I also ordered a fire blanket, which I've been meaning to do since I first saw one demonstrated. If you keep this up, you will show the whole world how to fix itself, at least the parts that are fixable. I really love it when people see that stuff, that safety stuff, and it motivates them to do it themselves. That's potential for saving people heartache and maybe their lives. Who knows? Ken liked the video, good safety reminder. Lisa, hey Lisa, my buddy Lisa, my campmate Lisa, great recommendations. JB, thank you. I'm going with Bluetti stations. I will cook outside of my travel trailer. I plan on changing out my tires every 3 to 4 years. I will be a long-term nomad. What else do I have to do but monitor my home? Your recommendations are appreciated. Thanks, JB. And Lisa's back again on the She's Cured video. It's always awesome to hear someone who's been cured of a disease. It sounds like a process with several steps. Thanks for sharing. Kansas Outdoors 6297. Thank you so much for this video. I love the deep detail you provided on tires, bearings, and brakes. Happy travels this summer. Chuck Okie. Thank you, Dottie, for a fact-filled video. After watching your video, I bought a new CO smoke detector that features UL resistance to cooking smoke. It worked. Yeah, mine did too. I just toasted some bread on the stove burner thing, and the alarm remained quiet. Always alarm before. I'd either take out the battery or hide the alarm under a pillow. Tomorrow, my fire blanket arrives. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. P.S. I watched your video where you made toast on the stove. I thought you must have taken out your battery for the alarm to remain quiet. Love that toast. Yeah, that's a real problem where they're shipping a lot of these, or maybe all RVs, with really bare bones, the least expensive smoke alarms, which will go off at the slightest hint of smoke, which is, you could say, hey, that's a good thing. On the other hand, if it's too sensitive and it's going off every time someone cooks and they end up taking the battery out or disabling it completely, then it defeats the entire purpose and suddenly the risk goes through the roof. And I did find when I did research that the more expensive ones, and they'll tell you about it in the description, are very good at making a distinction between cooking smoke and smoke from a real fire. And I don't know exactly how they do that, whether I'm going to suspect it's more than just changing the level of intensity on the detection. I don't know. Ken? But it works. Your brain inhabits positive news. Lisa, again, definitely going to check out that video. I love learning more stuff about the brain. RW9573, and this is my breaking down common RV myths and misconceptions. Enjoyed. What are you whining about? Are you hearing that, Dottie? By the looks of the air filter, it was due to be changed. That ought to improve your fuel mileage as well as the performance of the truck. You had your breakfast. What do you want now? Oh, I know what you want. She's having a little mobility. She's having more mobility problems. Want up? Come on. There you go. She's not able the past few days to jump up on the couch. I'm a little concerned. I do have her on a new medication that's safer for her. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how she does. Yeah, on the filter, I really impressed them when I took it to Ford. I said, every filter, air filter, including the cabin one, change out, because I was in the desert for months. And that one filter had a lot of crap in it. Mario Fuentes, Rob, you're a natural nomad. Your consulting background, I think means counseling background, complements your videos. Plus you have Dottie and Bob. Excellent campaigns. I'm not sure what that means. I think he typoed a little bit in that one. She is cured, positive news, not just positive news, wonderful news. And you know what? I don't remember what she was cured of. And you're probably wondering if you didn't watch that. So let me find it. She is cured. Let's see. I'm going to talk to you first before I read anything from the article about beta thalassemia. And it's a disease that I never heard of. It's a blood disorder that really messes with the blood chemistry, and people that get it experience a lot of pain, and they have a shorter life expectancy. So it's beta thalassemia. That's what she was cured from. Now I remember. Terrible disease. Ken Gray, it's always fun for me to figure out how to get places in a new home. Good talk too, he says. Nash says, hi Rob, great info, great idea to budget a monthly average so you can plan for future RVing. Yeah, I think if I remember right, this is breaking down common RV myths and misconceptions. I added up my expenses for all the different places I'm going to be in the next 12 months, divided by 12, and figured I'm paying $325 a month, which is pretty good. RV fire dangers you never thought about. Great info, says Greg Miller. Thanks, Greg. Couple science. Kathleen, my buddy Kathleen, who is also a therapist, that she's a little younger. She's doing it full time on the road. She hasn't retired yet. Love the car wash music video. In the driving, I went through a car wash, so I recorded the car wash. Then I put it on 10 times speed and added music to it. In reference to cheap camping, I still stand by a Thousand Trails membership. After my initial membership fee, she doesn't mention what that is, but it was a lot. 5 figures. I can't remember. It was more than $10,000. But here's what she got for it. I spend $13.50 a year to camp across the U.S. and a couple places in Canada. She's saying she's parking in full hookup RV resorts across the country and pays $1,350 a year. Most parks have security, and nearly all do have pools, although it's a hit or miss on what amenities are open at a given time. Still good. I love booking and seeing my $0 bill. Now, that is Thousand Trails, and you can buy secondhand memberships on Thousand Trails as well. So you want to look at a couple things. You want to look at what are the rules associated with the membership that you're buying. There's a couple of things. There's the window. The higher the level membership, the more far in advance that you can book. And I think the stays are limited to 2, if not 3 weeks at a time, and you have to move. But I know I think around Orlando, there's at least 2 of them, and people migrate back and forth all season in the winter between the 2 that have memberships. So and it's mostly in the southern part of you can see a map. It's mostly in the southern United States, from Florida all the way through into California. If you're going to make that big investment up front, you really want to make sure that you're going to be spending that time in those parks to make it worth it. And in her case, it's absolutely worth it. And if, let's say, you buy a membership that it is in fact transferable, if your lifestyle changes, you can sell it. There you go. Thanks for the tips there, Kathleen. Silver Falcon, Rob, I think the world is half crazy. However, I think we have to go through a bit of pain before things get much better. I'm very plus VE for the future. Don't know what plus VE means. I'm not sure I don't know what that means. But Silver Falcon, thanks for saying it. RV Life, love this talk. Thanks, Rob. Hi to Dottie and George. Janet Whitmore, you go in to the drive and you came out for the service area. I think there was a part of the video, there's this Ford dealer. I love the Ford dealer, but the signs and in and out of the place are so confusing. Twice now I've gone in there and have run into dead ends. And then this time I tried to get out and there was an employee with a big truck blocking the exit. It was just, and this is what Janet either works there or is a customer there and says, you go into the drive you came out of for the service area. I don't know what that confuses me even more. It's almost like she's saying you should have gone back the way you came. But I know that way was blocked, so I went the other way that I came in the first time. There wasn't, it turns out the only thing wrong with the way I exited was that there was an employee there backing up a truck that was disabled or something, and they couldn't see me, and I was like trying to back up. There cars, it's a huge parking lot of their vehicles, and there were cars everywhere, and it was real tight, and I couldn't back up fast enough, so I was laying on the horn so they would see me and stop so I could had time to get out of the way. It was very stressful. Lisa, what an awesome group of teens who raised our kids in a small town, and I'll explain what she's talking about here. And our kids' friends were always so helpful. I believe in keeping my eyes open, but I also believe most people are basically good. This was a positive news video I titled Unexpected Source of Kindness. This guy that was disabled, it was hard for him to walk to the store, but he would mostly get groceries delivered, but every once in a while, if he ran out of milk or something, he'd have to walk to the corner store. And he would had to go by a park where teenagers hung out who seemed rowdy and would catcall out mean things to people. And he was intimidated by them. And coming home from the market, he noticed they were paying attention to him and they were saying something to him, but he couldn't understand what they were saying, and he got pretty scared. And they all got up as a group and started coming towards him, and he was terrified. Yet, it turns out what they were doing was they wanted to help him carry his groceries. They wanted to help him. And he was just so touched by this. And every time these kids saw him, they would run up and help him. Ken Gray says on that one, wonderful story, and I agree. The Culbra 28 writes to me in Spanish, and we got it translated. And he says, Rob, greetings from Muturin, Venezuela. What town is that where you are? And I replied, Artesia, New Mexico. And this is a trip I made out of town, went to the vet, got the big shock about the medicine they wanted Dottie to be on. They were selling it for $150 for a month. And I ended up, and they said, you need to go online. Don't buy it here. So I went out in the car, went online to Chewy.com and got 3 months supply for $127 versus 1 month for $150. Anyway, Pup Camper, everyone knows Pup Camper 58. I hope everybody's subscribed to her channel. Pup Camper 58, my hero, who got me through my recovery for my hip replacement. She says, I use Chewy for all of Clover's her dog, medicine, and save a ton of money compared to what the veterinary clinic wants to charge me. Glad you were able to get Dottie's medicine a little less expensive that way. Robert Ballard says, great ride along, Rob. That's a nice little city. I feel your pain with the cost of Dottie's medication. You might have to sit down with Dottie about getting enrolled in Medicare. So Dottie would qualify, wouldn't you, Dottie? You're 10 years old, so times 7, you're past 65 now. You're 70. Ken Gray says, not everyone asked, not that anyone asked, but I have to look these things up. I was wondering about a sign I saw promoting alfalfa farming and implying there's alfalfa farming here in Artesia. he says alfalfa is primarily used as a livestock feed, particularly for dairy cows due to its high protein and fiber content. It can also be consumed by humans as a supplement or garnish. He says, I like watching the car wash. Have a great day. Lisa's back. Nice drive. That seems like a pretty little town. It has much more to it than I expected. Wicked expensive dog meds. Glad there's Chewy. Also, when you're finished with your truck, could you come do mine? There's a car wash in Blythe. So that's Blythe, California. Dig the groovy suspenders. That's from Montana Wife. I think I was wearing the ones that Cheryl sent me, and they're like, I call them hippie suspenders because they're like a wavy red, white, blue, green, multicolored. Nash says, cool, can't wait for the museum tour. Maybe I'll do that today. I do have to go into town they're going to read the VIN, and then I'll go into town to pick up the plates and everything. And I need to go to Walmart. Walmart or maybe the New Country Market, because I need to buy food for Dottie's food. So maybe I'll do the museum today. Hopefully they'll let me film. Things like that, you got to go in and say, hey, I'm a YouTuber. Is it okay if I film in here? And if they say no, too bad. No Name says 100-pound propane tank holds between 22 and 24 gallons, depending on ambient air temp when being full. I think I was in the video. I misspoke and I said 100 gallons. It's 100 pounds. So say it's about 20. I think a 20-pound tank is like 5.8 gallons or 5.9 gallons. So let's see, 5.9 gallons for 20 pounds times 5. Somewhere, hang on. Let me just Google this. How many 23.6 gallons. So, I'm going to get back to the point here. I was misspeaking in the video, and I was trying to tell you how much propane I have. And so here's what I have here at the house, believe it or not. I've got that 100-pound tank that is serviced by the propane company. And I also have 5 full 20-pound tanks. 2 on the front and on the tongue, the trailer tongue that sit in the holder, very typical. Then I have an additional 3. One I would use for a barbecue grill, one I would use for my heater, and another one I would use as just having a spare. So if you add all that up, I have 200 pounds of propane available to me when everything's full. So that would be almost 50 gallons of propane. And my generator, what I was discussing was, what resources do I have available to run a generator if there's some sort of long-term no electricity event? All right. So we're talking about 50 gallons, and it'll run about 12 hours at about half. You know what? I have to Google that too. Let's see. Predator 5,000 hours on propane. And it'll tell me there real quick. 10 to 12 hours on a 20-pound tank. So say 12 hours divided by 20 is 0.6 per pound. So I have 200 pounds of propane total. So that's 120 hours straight of generator usage. And you'd say, oh, Rob, that's only a few days. That's running at 24 hours. I also have a big solar array. So really, if I don't have electricity, there are only two potential reasons why I would need to flip that generator on. One would be there's not enough solar in rainy days or something, or very overcast days. Even overcast days are usually enough. And so I have a series of rainy, cloudy days, and I need to charge up the batteries. And that I could fully charge the batteries in about 6 hours easy. The other thing is that if it's hot and I need air conditioning, that's when I would use it probably the most. And even on the hottest days, like in Quartzsite, I would hold off until about 1:30 in the afternoon, where the trailer really started to heat up, and I would run it for about 4 hours until early evening when things started to cool down on the very hottest days. Take the 120, divide it by 4, and I've got 30 days worth of getting through hot days. I'm excited that I have a ton of backup power here at the house. That's a good thing. I'm sorry I went off on a big tangent there. But no name, whoever you are, thank you for correcting me. I was talking pounds and mixing pounds and gallons. Not very competent, was it? On full-time RV topics, Planner Mima says they all seem to get more cuddly as they age. They're talking about George being... Who knows what that sound is? I was trying to record a positive news video yesterday, and I had to stop in the middle because George was going crazy in the litter box. And he's done now. Oh, I love this positive news video from, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. College basketball with one arm. This young lady has one arm. She was born with a defect where her one arm was real super short and wasn't useful. So she played basketball, learned how to play basketball with one arm. She was cut from her high school team, but she made the cut in her college team and scored a 3-pointer in a game. And it was just a big celebration and just an amazing young woman that really defied the odds. Really great story. And Christina Lena has a big smiley face for that one. Let's see. And Lisa Roth comments on that too, says awesome. And Greg Miller thanks me for sharing the common RV myths and misconceptions. In my trip to the DMV, William Brown says, enjoy the taxes, state and federal. So I just replied to him and said, what is your point? I don't know what his point is. He could be referring to the fact that there's income tax in Mexico. There's certainly federal taxes. There are in every state. There weren't. I didn't have to pay like property taxes on the vehicles. It was very inexpensive. You're trying to make a point about taxes. I don't know what it is. I do know that I went from a no income tax state to an income tax state. I went from Nevada to New Mexico, but the offsets are. I was paying more than that first year registering my trailer and my vehicle. It was over $1,000 because they have these, I think they call them government use taxes or something that you pay to the DMV that goes to the local municipality. And it was well over $1,000. And it was under $100 to do my driver's license and everything here. So I saved about $1,000, and I calculated what my income tax would be and it was like, I don't know, $500 or $600 at the most. So I'm still ahead of the game. Plus, the insurance, same coverage, same insurance company on my truck was half of what it was. So that was another few $100s I saved. So, William, it seems a little mean-spirited, your comment. I think at the best, it sounds a little sarcastic, but it's uncensored, right? So read them all. Jim Bean says, thanks for showing the fire blanket. I own 4 now. Even put one next to bed. No. Oh, good for you. Good, Jim. Good for you. And that is the last one. And I'll say this about being at Uncensored. You may be watching and say, hey, I had a little criticism of you and you didn't read it. There's in the YouTube settings, if you're saying something mean, the YouTube algorithm recognizes it and it will not post your comment. It goes into a holding queue and that automatically purges out, I think, every month or so. But if you're saying mean stuff and I'm not reading it, it must be pretty obvious that it's mean because YouTube's kicking it out. And there's certain keywords that I have put in that will kick it out the same way. Because I don't want all of you subject to really nasty stuff. I don't think you need to be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's. Those of you who want an update on the hip. Okay. So I'm riding a bicycle every day. And so the thing that's left is range of motion. And I can get it up to about here and I start feeling pain. But it used to be I couldn't do that. So I can do that. I can cross my leg to put on my sock. And this Monday will be 2 months, 8 weeks. Really, I was reading studies on recovery from this surgery, from hip replacement surgery. And 100% integration in recovery is 9 months. So we're 2 months into the 9 months. One even had a chart of what percentage you are by month. And I think right now I'm 26% of the way there, or something like that. But I feel great. I feel much better than before the surgery. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I can bicycle now. I can go for long walks. I'm pretty excited by that. Every once in a while, I'll feel on the top of the thigh here. I'll be sitting in the recliner at night and I'll feel a tingling wave of, it's a really weird thing. It's a nerve, right? A nerve is in the process of healing, and it'll tingle and I feel a momentary shiver through my whole body, and then it subsides. And that used to be quite frequent, and it's gotten less and less as time goes on. I'm no longer doing updates on the playlist where it's exclusively hip replacement recovery videos, because I think I've done enough of those. But if you know anyone that is thinking about or has a hip surgery, replacement surgery scheduled, tell them to go to my channel and look up the hip replacement playlist. And in there, I have a ton of videos on my whole experience, starting with pre-surgery and a bunch on post-surgery. Let's see, playlists. To hip replacement, I have 18 videos on the hip replacement surgery playlist. Let me give you a little flavor for it. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. I just want to see a list of, click on videos there. It's so hard to see because it's so small. Yeah, it's like the first one is Nomad surgery date. No, it's not the first one. It's for some reason it's not sorting it by date. It's all mixed up. I'm really sorry about that. I think maybe, is there a way I can sort this for people? That's terrible. It says edit in YouTube. Sort. Date added oldest. That didn't work. I'm sorry about that.
Walking unassisted.
I'm sorry I started one of the videos. I will work on that, see if there's a way I can get that playlist sorted in the order that I did it. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Maybe it'll be the Artesia Museum video. I'll run down there and see if they'll let me film. Take care.